Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy baseball strategy show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m.
Hold
Eastern,
on, Jack.
1:30
Dan,
p.m.
you want to
Pacific.
go live first?
We are live.
Oh, now we are.
We were the whole time.
Oh, my.
Wow.
No, you weren't.
Okay. There was some kind of weird delay, guys. But hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. As I was saying before, welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy baseball strategy show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here, as always, with Casey Vlad to the Bone Scheinvold and Ross the Boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss. We got a lot of baseball going on. A lot of great stories. Tatis is back from his suspension starting tonight. He's back on the lineup for the Padres in Arizona, which is unbelievable. Max Scherzer, did he cheat? Did he not cheat? I don't know. If you're watching, let us know your thoughts. His hands were so sticky that it stuck onto the umpire's hand. Gonna get it off. It was like this.
I'm surprised he didn't try to throw the ball and just have it stuck on his hand.
Yeah, I mean, so there's so much great baseball going on. The Yankees, Judge, your boy Judge, robbed a home run from Ohtani yesterday.
Robbed a home run in the
one.
first and then hit one.
Yeah, I mean, Judge is and your rookie, Anthony Valspo,
MVP.
He's playing, he's the shortstop you got, he's making unbelievable plays. He's a bullet, that guy. I love that kid. 8 stolen bases.
Right. I mean, he's already doing it with the 8 stolen bases. He hasn't even been hitting that well. If that starts to happen, he's going to be extremely valuable.
Over 300 in the last week, so we'll take that.
Hey,
Oh,
Casey,
it's been a really
His
good.
on-base percentage for the season is up to 340 because he has 11 walks.
Casey was down on him last week. Now he's high on this week.
Well, this brings up
He's
a point.
back, baby. He's in his lineup now.
Brings up a point that Ross was making before the show, so you guys didn't see it. But I was talking about, hot starts or players that started off cold. Should we be worried? And Ross is making the point. It's only April. Like we have a long way to go.
Whining about stuff right now. It's not even like I start worrying after maybe Memorial Day. That's when I get worried.
Yeah, and Casey and I start worrying in February.
I was going to say.
It's really true. A couple other headlines. Jeff Springs out for the year, getting Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, that's
I
terrible.
didn't actually. It's funny because as in terms of my other role as a mind-body psychologist, I heard that he was having symptoms, and I was like, I don't think he needs surgery. But these guys always end up under the knife when they've got these mystery things that aren't going away. He had, I guess shooting sensations in his arm, and ended up getting Tommy John surgery, and so it's a big loss. Stepping in for him is Taj Bradley. It's amazing how much talent there's.
Just throw a shutout. Why don't you, Taj?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he comes in and he pitches great, and we'll see if he can keep it up. But the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays, there's no longer the word devil in their name. They're a good team. I mean, I know they lost a few. They didn't have that perfect season that Dan Ratner predicted, but they're a good, managed, well-rounded team, and I see them in the playoffs.
Oh, I definitely see them in the playoffs. There's really something magical about whatever they do with any pitcher. I mean, you look at a guy like Drew Rasmussen. I don't know his background that much. I mean, when you check these guys out, most of the guys who make it to the major leagues, they had significant success anyways. But I didn't hear about Drew Rasmussen much, and then here he is pitching great. So that brings me to a question, and then we'll get to waiver wire guys. But I want to talk about whose hot starts are for real and which slow starts are not. And so one of the questions I had was Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman is destroying the ball everywhere.
He really is. Now,
he's got a high batting average on balls in play, which tells us that part of it's luck. I read up on it. It doesn't sound like it's all luck. There's some real adjustments happening at the plate. What are you guys thinking?
I think, look, I don't think he's a 348 hitter or whatever he's hitting now. Let's be honest. I think he's probably a 270 hitter, but because he started so hot, his batting average may end up inflated for the year. But he hits in a great lineup in a great hitter's park, and he's always been a high barrel percentage guy. He hits the ball hard, and
when he
hits it, right? He's a strikeout guy, but that doesn't make
But his plate discipline is better now.
His plate discipline was pretty good his first few years in the league, I think.
Oh, it was, but this is his best plate discipline since his rookie year.
Yeah, and so I mean, Yeah, you get out of Oakland, you feel better. I think, which Oakland's looking to do. They're going to Las Vegas. They just bought land on the
The
strip
whole
there.
team.
I
is
read
like
that today. I was going to talk about that.
But he was an all-star in like his second year in the league. This guy we know is a good baseball player. So it's not like we're talking about a 30-year-old journeyman who's never been known for hitting the ball at all. And then all of a sudden he's, hitting 50 bombs.
So let me ask you about this. Yandy Diaz. Is this for real?
So to go back to Chapman, if you own Chapman right now, sell him immediately. He's not going to keep it up. He's going to have a hot April. He'll cool down in May. He'll cool down in June. He'll end up hitting around 240. Quote me right now, Casey Scheinfeld, if you want. I don't really care. But if you got him now, sell, as he's sitting training places. Sell.
I'll take the over on the batting average, but I agree. He's got to cool off. I mean, nobody can sustain this pace for a whole season. Yandy Diaz, his issue was never contact. If you look, he's never been a guy who strikes out. His issue was like his launch angle was like 5 degrees. He just pounded the ball into the ground. And with the shifts and stuff, he would get crushed. Maybe the loss of the shift or the outlawing of the shift, plus he's elevating the ball more. Again, I don't know if he's ever going to be a 30 home run guy.
He's tripled his launch angle this year.
Yeah. So if he can keep doing that, then it's for real. He's always been putting the ball in play. He had a low BABIP because he put the ball on the ground all the time.
Yeah, and I really think that this getting rid of the shift has helped hitters, not just because when they pull the ball, they're having more success. I think they're much more relaxed with
Joey Gallo.
They're not
Joey Gallo.
Did a 3-run bomb his first day back.
First day back was yesterday. Joey Gallo.
Well, I wanted to ask about Joey Gallo. What do we think? Is he going to have his best season because the shift isn't there? What do we think?
Well, he hit
right
50
now,
home runs once, didn't he?
Right now, I would say
he
yes.
He always hits home runs.
Right now, if you can pick him up in your league, which some people dropped him when he got hurt, and now he's back playing, and Casey said he had a bomb yesterday. I think the shift helped him the most of any player in the league. I think him and Corey Seager, who's actually hurt, are going to benefit drastically. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that Gallo, he still might be like a 230 or 240 hitter, even with that. But if he does that and he hits 40 home runs,
he's a definite, because he's an athlete too, so he can run. It's not like
he's also got first base eligibility and outfield. He's really worth rostering. How about this? Brandon Marsh, is this for real?
Case?
He's a fringe rosterable player.
What's he hitting? 350 or something?
I think Brandon Marsh is hitting like close to 390 or something. Let's check.
I'll check right now.
Do your stuff. But Brandon Marsh, another guy, if you have him, start him. He's having a hot April. It's a streaky guy right now. He's not going to hit over 300 for the year, unfortunately. But if you got him, start him. I mean, that's all I got to tell you.
He's hitting 368, 11 runs scored, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, and a stolen base.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you look, he is getting lucky. His BABIP is very high. The thing about Brandon Marsh, unlike Matt Chapman, is you can't sell him for much because people are not going to buy in.
People
don't
much, trust the name yet. Yeah.
Matt Chapman's already a trusted name, so I agree with Ross. I think you sell there.
Yeah, okay. But Marsh has a great beard. I mean, have you seen his beard? I mean, I love.
How could you not see his beard?
He looks like a homeless
you
man.
have to make that a fantasy category in MFSN.
Oh yes. Just extra points for beard.
When I see Brandon Marsh,
bring back March Madness, we do beards.
When I see Brandon Marsh, I'm counting all the food that he's eaten in his beard because he's like that beard. I mean,
some people keep a diary to tell where they've been. He just keeps food.
It's so ragged, but he is hitting great. Just keep it up. I mean, again, if you have Marsh, start him.
Let me ask this. If you guys had to pick one player, and we've only done hitters so far, but if you had to pick one player who has had a hot start that you don't think is for real, who is it?
Oh dear.
If that's putting you too much on the spot, I'll just give you a name.
No, I'll be happy. I'll be happy to answer. I mean,
well, I would.
Okay, I'm going to say Josh Jung of the Texas Rangers.
All right.
He's hitting the ball really well. He's getting on base. His batting average is high. I don't see him hitting over 250, but I could be wrong. And I just feel that he's a little overrated. People have him very high right now. And but he's, again, I still like him, but I just don't think he's the player that everybody thinks he is.
Okay.
Case?
I'll give you two batters. First is Jorge Mateo in Baltimore. We know the guy can run, but like his on base percentage is typically in the mid twos with a batting average in the high ones or low twos. Right now, what is he batting? 362 with 13 runs scored and 8 stolen bases. I mean, the guy's a top 10 fantasy producer right now. Is he going to keep that up? No, he's somebody I would sell as high as humanly possible on. And the other guy is Patrick Wisdom in Chicago. Like this guy has proven to be kind of that fringy first, third base type who you might be able to start, but probably one on the end of your bench. But right now he's batting 280 with 8 home runs and 15 runs scored and 15 RBIs. Like that's just, I don't see
remember, Casey, last week we said we should pick him up, right?
I still think you should pick him up if he's on the.
No, he was under 60%, but now he's like 70-something%. You can't even talk about him anymore.
And the thing about a player like Patrick Wisdom is you're always going to pick him up right before his cold streak, and you're not going to pick him up in time for his hot streak. He's a tough player to roster that way.
I don't know. I mean, he's plays for the Cubs today. The Cubs are playing the Dodgers, and it's blowing out in Wrigley Field, which means it's going to be a lot of home runs, a lot of runs scored. And I see Patrick Wisdom having a big game tonight. We'll see what happens.
All right. One pitcher who I'm not buying in on is Marcus Stroman. I know he's done very well, but he just doesn't have the track record. I don't expect the Cubs to be particularly good. I think eventually the wheels are going to fall off there. I do have a question, though, about Joe Ryan. How for real is Joe Ryan?
I love this. I loved him last year. He got hurt. I feel Joe Ryan has a golden arm. I think he's really good. And that Minnesota starting staff is good, Casey. They have 3 young, good pitchers on their team that are pitching very well. And I like them. I always did. And this guy's a strikeout guy, and he throws the ball really hard. And I think this could be a big breakout year for him.
Well, I'd rather have a guy like Joe Ryan than a guy like Marcus Stroman because Joe Ryan doesn't have the track record of not succeeding
and not getting hurt like Stroman's hurt almost every other year.
All right, we're gonna get to like cold starts that we don't believe in, but let's turn to waiver wire first. Who are some of your biggest pickups this week? Obviously, it's always important early in the season to pounce on the guys that people maybe cut that they shouldn't have. People who aren't buying in, and just like we were talking about, that these things are for real and you want to buy in on. Who would be a couple of your top ads?
Josh Lowe of Tampa Bay, outfielder. This guy's hitting 372, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs. I mean, I never really heard. I know the other Lowe that plays. There's 2 Lows on Tampa Bay, right, Casey?
Brandon Lowe.
Brandon Lau.
Brandon Lau.
He's Lau. He's a Turk.
Lowe.
That's the only reason I know.
So there's actually only one Low. There's highs and lows.
There's a low on Texas, a low on Tampa Bay.
We're talking about Josh. We're talking about Josh. I never really heard of this guy. I know he came up through the minors and all this other stuff, and he was very highly touted. But this guy's everybody on Tampa Bay's been smashing the ball. I mean, jump on the bandwagon. Might as well. I mean, these guys, all they do is score runs. They score a lot. It's like it doesn't matter if they're home or away. It doesn't matter. So for me, I like this guy. I think he's for real. And if he gets to play every day, watch out.
I'm gonna name somebody, go in the Wayback Machine and pick somebody who found the fountain of youth. He went back home to Pittsburgh, and Andrew McCutchen has turned into the outfielder he was 7 years ago when he was in Pittsburgh.
MVP.
I mean, the last 2 weeks, 326, 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases, 9 runs scored, 8 RBIs. Like he's absolutely just on fire right now. And Pittsburgh, by the way, small nugget, better record than the Yankees right now.
Pittsburgh's on fire.
They're 12-7. The Yankees are 11-7.
I mean, Pittsburgh swept Colorado in Colorado, I believe, right, Case?
Yeah.
And McCutchen, you're 100% right. I mean, he was the MVP about 10 years ago, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he had the game-winning home run a few days ago. I mean, this guy is just on fire. He's stealing bases. And you're right. He went back to Pittsburgh, and he's a whole new guy. He's unbelievable.
Well, he's so beloved in Pittsburgh. There's got to be some energy you get when the whole stadium like their favorite son returns, and they're just shouting no matter what he does that we love you, you're the best stuff. I mean,
right.
Like I've never experienced it, but I'm sure it feels good.
I think Dan has. When he goes back to the Cleveland Guardian games, they all chant his name and he stands up and waves. I mean, Dan feels it.
I mean, it's mass confusion for everyone. Everyone's like, why are we doing this? But I think, Case, I think you're right. Andrew McCutchen, he's so comfortable there and he's so beloved. It really has to help. I'm going to mention Jonah Heim at catcher. Ross made this call a long time ago.
Yeah, so, Ross, he's still hitting 350. I mean, the guy's
Mitch
just
Garver's hurt, so there's not any he's getting all the
and it's just like, finding a good catcher is not easy to do. I drafted William Contreras, and he's hitting the ball well. His average is good, but his production is pitiful. He's got like a run and 4 RBIs,
which is really weird considering how many runs Milwaukee scored.
And he's been batting cleanup some of the time. It's like, and this speaks to what Ross was saying. It is early. You can't trust these numbers. They're going to start to even out in a variety of ways.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm not saying to pick this guy up, but I do wonder about him. What do you guys think about Jake Berger? He's only 9% rostered. He's not had a ton of at bats.
He sounds like he should be in a bad Kevin Smith movie.
Yes. What were you going to say?
He has, how many home runs does he? I mean, every time I see him hit, he hits a home run.
He has 5 home runs out of 8 hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 home runs and
he's sustainable.
He's only been playing about a week, right? I mean, they brought him up and he's been playing almost every day. I mean, they brought him up last year and he did pretty well. And that White Sox team, they're for real. I mean, they're really good. And if their pitching does anything, they'll be in the playoffs.
Well, and if you look at his minor league numbers, they suggest that he can be a good major league player. And third base is so shallow. This is one of the reasons I'm asking about it, that, many people have had trouble with third base. Case, you smartly drafted Alec Baum when I let him go. And, I think a guy like Alec Baum, he's a perfect example that if you get him in like the 3rd year, that's so much better than the rookie year. It's just what Ross has been saying. They're going to have a lot of adjustment. If you look at people's rookie numbers, just look at their walks and strikeouts. They're terrible when they get to the next level, and then they start to even out as they figure it out. We saw the same thing happening with Jared Kelenic. I think people are still asking the question, how for real is the guy? But if you look at Jake Berger's numbers, he's been putting up huge power numbers all along, and he gets better and better with his plate discipline. He does strike out a fair amount, so you could expect a low batting average. But if you need power, sticking him at third base, not a bad idea.
Not a bad one. And another guy I like, too, is J.B. Davis. I mean, he used to ex-Met.
He's always been an exit velocity guy, yeah.
I mean, he's been hurt a lot, and he's healthy. He's hitting 311, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs. I mean, he's bringing it all together. He's healthy. He's playing for a trash team. I mean, I think San Francisco's horrible. One of the worst teams. I really believe they're one of the worst teams in the league. But doesn't matter in fantasy baseball because if your guy plays every day, he'll get his at-bats and he'll get his home runs. But I like J.B. Davis this year. I think he's going to put everything together. As long as he stays healthy, I hope he does. But again, do you guys see who was waived today? And they got the eat 34. They got the
Madison,
34 million. Madison Bumgarner. There's other Diamondbacks. $34 million that Diamondbacks have to eat. They have to pay him that money when they release him. That's unbelievable.
Somebody's going to give him the veterans minimum on May 1st as soon as he's through.
I don't know if anybody wants him. I mean,
yeah, but as a lefty specialist to come out of the pen in like the 6th or 7th inning, you only have to pay the league minimum.
Yeah,
Steve Cohen will give him that money tomorrow. Or third baseman, though, there's a couple third basemen on the waiver wire. We mentioned J.D. Davis. You mentioned Jake Berger. Brian Hayes is playing really well. And this is a guy with a prospect pedigree. Last 2 weeks, 270, 8 runs scored, a home run, a couple stolen bases, 5 RBIs. And Ross, you own him in one of our keeper leagues, is Anthony Rendon. Like, I know he's been hurt a lot, but the cat can hit. He's hitting 354 in the last 2 weeks. They're both under 60% owned. So as thin as third base is, there's actually some stuff on the wire if you didn't get a big third baseman in the draft.
Yeah, and actually, I'll mention one more that I meant to mention last week, and I've been high on him the whole season, is Spencer Steer. I think he can be a really valuable third baseman. He's been out the last week with a knee injury. He's back today.
Yep.
And he's going to hit for pretty good average. It looks to me from everything I've seen with his track record. And I think he's got a good enough bat that he's going to stick in the lineup, even though he's not the best fielder. So, you're right. Third base is not, it's a weird position because it's not so shallow that you can't find anybody. But the difference between somebody who has like Jose Ramirez versus Spencer Steer, it's a big deal.
Has Jose Ramirez, has he hit a home run yet?
He did. I think he has 2, actually.
Oh, does he? Because like last week he didn't have one. And I was going to give you a bad time about it.
We didn't even mention Taylor Walls, who's just like might be the hottest hitter in baseball right now.
Oh, well, how about that? Is he for real?
Well, we mentioned
he plays first, second, and third, doesn't he? Or second, short.
Yeah, he's like 4 positions, Casey. It's like 4 of them, I think.
Yeah.
Is he for real? I don't. You have to define for real? Like, this is a utility player. Can he be a great utility player all year long? Yes.
Well,
is he going to be a fantasy stalwart? No.
Yeah. So that's saying that he's not for real in terms of what he's doing right now.
But he is eligible in many positions. So if you pick him up, it's a good pickup anyway. Because you got a guy that can...
And the way Tampa Bay runs their franchise, their team, he's going to play at least 3 or 4 games a week. So you don't have to worry about him going 5 straight games without a start, and he just wastes a spot on your bench.
Yep.
Okay. If you had to pick up one of the following outfielders.
Yeah.
We got Andrew McCutchen.
Okay.
We've got
we're doing redraft.
Jorge Soler. No, just waivers right now.
Jorge Soler, Florida Marlin. Yeah.
Or Joey Gallo. I think Gallo would probably be our number 1 pick of those 3. But let's do Jorge Soler versus Andrew McCutchen. Is it even a discussion? You guys were talking.
I don't even think it's close. I think it's McCutchen. I wouldn't, because he's not a one-trick pony. This is a guy who's hit for average in his career, has enough speed to get you a few bags. And Jorge Soler, don't get me wrong, led the league with 48 home runs the one year, but outside of that, has he had another productive season?
And guys, the Marlins are so bad hitting. I mean, they're such a poor hitting team, and they don't produce runs.
Bold prediction: Pittsburgh finishes ahead of St. Louis this year.
Wow.
Hold on, I'm writing that down.
By the way, I think Soler has had good seasons, but his 48 homer season was his only true great season in fantasy sports. So
right.
I look at that, and he just seemed to go on a tear. So I agree with you. I think Gallo would be of the 3. I'd add Gallo first and then McCutchen. But I think Jorge Soler is potentially worth it for somebody who's looking for a flyer, especially on power. One thing you need to look at is look at your stats and figure out what it is that you need.
Yeah, you're at the point of the season now, 3 or 4 weeks in, where you start to realize what your strengths and weaknesses are in the categories if you're in a category league.
Let's talk pitching, guys. Who should people be picking up right now?
Johan Oviedo.
Tell me why, Casey.
Well, hold on. Let's give a shout out to there was a guy on last week, Uncle Ted, who I think is coming on the Tuesday show. He talked Oviedo up.
Yep.
Oviedo, Pittsburgh Pirate. Keep going, Case.
High 90s fastball, filthy low 90s slider. Last 2 weeks, 19 innings, 2 wins, 21 strikeouts, less than a 1 ERA and WHIP. This guy was has been one of their top prospects for a few years. All of a sudden, there's some pretty nasty pitching in Pittsburgh. If Keller's for real and he's been pitching well, there's also Rosny. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Contreras, I like a lot too.
And
Keller.
then you have Oviedo. Vince Velasquez has been pitching really well for him too. If you remember, he was the hotshot prospect and rookie for Philadelphia several years ago, who had more, like, it seemed like he would strike out 10 to 12 batters a game before he lost all of his control. So if he's figured it out too, I mean, Pittsburgh, maybe they changed their pitching philosophy where it's not all 2-seamers thrown to contact, and they're having more success.
Their strategy now seems to be to try to win. So
I know.
Good. I mean, it really is true though. They've really turned things around. They're to me, they're this year's Baltimore Orioles from last year, where a lot of people thought they were going to be just terrible, and they're really an exciting team. Couple others to mention. Well, let me ask this question. He's not a waiver pickup, but is it time to cut bait on Brady Singer?
So much potential, such a high ceiling.
The response said it all. You both were like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's so many good pitchers right now that are on a waiver wire that I'd rather have.
Right.
Than Singer, and Kansas City's not scoring runs. So I would probably waive him just because. I mean, Barlow, their closer, I don't think he's even has a save this year, and his ERA is like over whatever. I mean,
yeah, Kansas City has some weird things going on.
Kansas City can't get any save opportunities. Chapman's having a great season, Casey. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he'll be traded in about a month and a half back to the Yankees.
He's going to be on the Yankees. Exactly.
He's going to be on the Yankees because Clay Holmes sucks right now.
Right, exactly. We all know it's going to happen.
Casey will pick him up at the airport like usual.
That's right.
Casey will pick him up.
Standing with a sign.
But Kansas City is not scoring runs. There's no save opportunities. I'm sorry if you're a Royal fan. I'm sorry. But if you have any of those pitchers that are on Kansas City except Chapman, I would probably not have any of them. But yes. You're 100% right.
What about Mackenzie Gore? Mackenzie Gore is looking pretty good to me.
Casey, you're
I'm
next
a big
one
Mackenzie Gore fan. I owned him as a minor leaguer, unfortunately. Then he came up and struggled and COVID and all that stuff. This guy was the number one lefty in baseball, prospect in baseball for a reason. He's got filthy stuff. His mechanics were out of whack for a couple of years. It looks like he's got them straightened out. I would certainly, Washington's not going to give you a bunch of wins. So he's never going to be, at least not in the short term, a category contributor in wins. But he's got the stuff to have the Ks, the ERA, and the WHIP for you, and it's a good ballpark to pitch. So I would buy in on Mackenzie Gore.
All right. Anybody else that you want to mention?
Who's having a good season is Wade Miley. I mean, he's been around for years. His ERA's under 2. He's pitching really well. He's healthy. Again, I don't know if he's going to keep it up, but if you have room on your roster, you want somebody streaking, Wade Miley's a great pickup. And also this kid from Arizona. I know I talk bad about the Diamondbacks, but they're not a bad team, as everybody predicts. Is Dre Jameson of the Diamondbacks. Dre's pitching great. I mean, his ERA is like under 2. He passes the Dan Ratner test with 12 Ks with 12 innings. And I mean, I like this kid. I mean, he throws in the high 90s. He throws heat.
You know who I was shocked to see less than 60% owned is Jose Alvarado in Philadelphia. He's gotten the last. He's gotten the last. 60? Yeah, he's at, as of today, he's at 47% owned.
What's his ERA?
In the last 2 weeks, it is 1.42 with a 0.47 WHIP, 6 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, 2 saves.
Well, the Phillies are not playing great baseball. Maybe that's why.
But Soto's Dominguez and Craig Kimbrell have been terrible. And
Soto too. Your guy Soto's been horrible.
They don't have a lot of competition.
To me, that number, that rostership number, it suggests there's a fair amount of shallow leagues out there because there's no way that guy shouldn't be owned in so many leagues.
There's no way. There's no way you're from my loins. I'm doing Smoking the Bandit for you.
Nice.
Buford T. Justice. I don't know if you guys ever saw Smoking the Bandit.
Oh, I saw it, but it was long. It was a bit of a. It's slightly before.
It's only one of my
Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds.
No, that's Cannonball Run. Nice try.
No, Smoking the Bandit is with Sally Field. And
Burt
Reynolds, of course.
And
what?
And who played Buford T. Justice?
I'm not remembering who.
Alice, I'm going to shoot you to the moon.
Really?
Yeah.
You serious?
It was he should have been nominated for an Oscar. He was that great. I forgot his name now because of you, but
now listen, if you came here for fantasy baseball, we've gone completely off the rails.
That's what we do at the show.
Dive on Smoking the Bandit. I'm going to rein us back in. Let's talk about are these bad starts?
Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, Jackie Gleason. Are these bad starts ones that we need to worry about? Now, there's bad starts and then there's really bad starts. So somebody who's off to a really bad start, I think, for his standards is Juan Soto. Are you guys worried about him?
I'm starting to be.
We talked about it at the beginning of the season, and I told you the second half of the season last year he didn't look good. I was worried about him. I really was, and I didn't draft him in any of my leagues because of that. And I'm worried because of last year's hangover, and I just don't know what's going on with him. I really don't. But maybe May, June, and July he'll start hitting better. We'll see what happens.
Okay, well, my boy Vinny Pasquantino is hitting the ball decently well. He's making very good contact, but he looks like he's going to drive in maybe 40 RBIs for the whole year.
It's April. Keep going. Kansas City doesn't score runs, so maybe you're right.
I mean,
what do you guys think of another San Diego Padre, Manny Machado?
Oof.
I'm not worried about Manny Machado, but he has certainly not looked good.
241 with 1 home run.
He's going to be totally fine. Do not worry about Manny Machado. In fact, I would probably deal for him.
Well, they're playing the Diamondbacks tonight. Waka's going for San Diego. Nelson's going for Arizona. It should be a pretty good game, but I think San Diego should win tonight. And I'll predict Soto will have a home run. How about that? And Tatis will have a home run too. How do you like that, Casey?
Oh, I think you're right about Tatis. By the way, if I were a Matt Chapman owner, I'd go to the Machado owner and I'd deal for Machado and pick up something else on top of it.
I love it. See, that's thinking like a fantasy owner. That's what you want to do.
What do you guys think of Alex Bregman?
I know I love him. What's he hitting this year? I love
it's under
Bregman.
200. Pretty sure it's
Alex
under 200.
Bregman's batting 216 with 2 home runs.
216. Okay.
It's a good time to pick him up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about him. He certainly is a valuable player. Find the managers who are down on these guys too much and go ahead and deal for them. If you can take a chance on that. Mookie Betts also is having a pretty bad start to the year.
Yeah, he
Mookie
is.
Betts
I have no worries about him.
He's day-to-day and a great time to trade for him. I mean, he's day-to-day. He has a minor injury.
How do you guys feel about Aaron Nola?
Nola and Corbin Burns also.
Well, Burns is
Corbin
hurt.
Burns too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's slow start, Casey. I mean, wow.
No, I agree. But Nola has less than a strikeout per inning, a 5.9 ERA, and a 1.45 WHIP.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's harder about dealing for pitchers when you're buying low is if they're still pitching really badly for a long time, they're hard to roster. They really weigh you down and they mess up your numbers. I think he'll rebound okay. His start has basically made it so that it's funny because he'll be a deal in drafts next year just because of what he's already done, because his numbers are going to be inflated. I'm not too worried about him, but with strikeouts down, is his velocity down?
I haven't seen that. I haven't looked at that.
His control's off. He doesn't look like the pitcher from last year. Again, the Phillies had such high expectations. They're not playing where they should be. But they're at home tonight against Colorado, and Colorado, when they go away, they're not a good team. Colorado's bad too. That's another bad team. With some bad pitchers, and they get lit up all the time.
Well, while we're on Colorado, let's talk about Daniel Bard.
He's back, baby.
A lot was made of what went on with Daniel Bard. I went in certain chat rooms and it's insane. It's like a political debate about are people, soft now and how you go on the IL.
Mental issues. I mean, the guy's back. He pitched yesterday. He pitched 1 inning, gave up 0 runs.
Yeah, but other people have been defending him, and I think very appropriately saying,
defending him from what? I mean, why are people mad at you? Guys do this for a living. Tell me why somebody would be angry that somebody has mental issues. Tell me.
Listen, I mean, I think it's because they're defending against the fact that everybody has.
Everybody has anxiety.
We should,
doesn't mean you have a disorder.
Here's the other thing. I don't understand people who are just like, oh, just take a Xanax and get out on the mound. You don't want him pitching then. If he's anxious, let's let him get him under control. The Rockies did the right thing by him.
Or functioning under enough Xanax.
And it was brave of him to go ahead and just say what it was instead of fake some kind of arm injury. Okay, Albert Mariquin is asking a question that actually I was literally going to ask this next. Are you guys worried about Alek Manoah?
Yes. I own him in our league, as we know.
Okay, and why?
He's been getting rocked. He's been getting rocked. I'm not going to start him his next start either. They're playing against the Yankees on Saturday, and he's starting. I'm not starting him on my team. His ERA is over 6, I think, Casey, and he just doesn't look like the same pitcher from last year.
He's shellacked.
Well,
so
benching
Sandy
him,
Alcantara.
Yeah, benching him makes a lot of sense. The question is, are we worried about him long term, or do you think he'll right the ship?
I think whatever he has, he'll ride it, and he'll be fine by maybe May or June. When it heats up, maybe it'll be better. I don't know.
Listen, if you look in the dugout and or the bullpen, anywhere they are, if you see him talking to Jose Berrios, trade him immediately.
Right.
Berrios has been pitching well.
And his numbers are still pretty bad. He burned me so bad last year. It's going to be a constant running joke with me.
I'm worried about him tremendously. Yes. I had him as a top 5 pitcher in the American League, and right now he's probably in the bottom 5. So
That's actually him calling right now.
Let me tell you somebody who I would be selling as fast as I can.
Who?
And since we're in leagues together, just get ready because I'm going to send you deals for him.
Yes.
I think Dustin May is due for a lot of regression, and it's mostly because he's just not striking guys out. He does not pass the Dan Ratner test.
Tell the audience what it is, please.
Strikeouts is 1 out of 10 categories in a typical rotisserie league, and it tends to be a big number everywhere. And he's just not putting up nearly a strikeout inning. In fact, he's putting up a strikeout every 2 innings, something like that. It's a little over that, but that's pretty bad. Here's the thing: he's got good stuff, and he's got good numbers otherwise. So it's time to sell him.
I like it. I was never a big fan of his, but I think if you get anything for him, how many wins does he have this year, and what's his ERA?
Let me check that. I'll get back to you on it. In the meantime, talk about Grayson Rodriguez. Tell me what you think about him.
I predict him as the rookie of the year. Casey laughed at me. He made fun of me. He still does. He's a horrible person when it comes to me talking about Grayson. But I think Grayson Rodriguez is going to be a future All-Star. I think give him a few more starts, and you'll see this kid shine. I like this kid a lot, and I feel he's a big kid. I mean, he's like 6'5", 6'6", big guy. And I love this stuff, and I think he's the guy. He'll be the ace of the Orioles by the end of the season.
Interesting. I think he's not going to be particularly useful this year. I think he's just got to find his way out. I hope you're right.
Casey, you're the tying vote. Who do you think is right, me or Dan?
I don't think this is Grayson Rodriguez's year.
You son of a... Oh.
All right. Uncle Ted is here with us. He says, what up? Here's the names to get. Uncle Ted, by the way, we talked about you before. I gave you a shout out. What was it? He
Johan Oviedo.
Oh, yeah. Oviedo. I gave you credit, Uncle Ted. You said it. You said he looked like the real deal, and it sure does look like it. Here's some more names from Uncle Ted.
Okay, we talked about Burger already.
Talk about Jake Burger. Harold Ramirez.
The only thing about Harold Ramirez is that you got to keep track of when he plays because he doesn't play every day. But he is hitting over 300, and I agree with Ramirez. But if you can't get your computer, you can't set your lineup when they announce the starting lineup, it's not the best player to have on your team. We talked about Taylor Wells. We talked about him. I love Jack from the Pittsburgh Pirate. I love it. Jonah Heim we talked about. Brian De La Cruz. Does he play every day I haven't checked. I know he's like platooning, but
he does not play every day, but he's been playing a lot, especially against right.
Yeah, I mean that outfield in Miami is very crowded. I mean, we talked about Soler today, right, guys?
We did.
And then Zach Efron. Zach Efron. He's
Zach Efron. Zach Eflin. Zach Efron. I mean, you can pick him up if you want. He was good in Neighbors.
He has great abs. We all love Zach Efron. He can sing. He can dance. He can act. There's nothing the kid can't do. Right, Casey? So, And Eric Lauer, I mean, last year he was good for a month and then he got destroyed. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I do. I owned him.
I remember.
That totally cracked me up. I did. I mean, well, I had him for 2 good starts and I was like, I think I'm onto something. And then he just got annihilated.
and then he played some team like,
look at how much
that made Ross got out in a game, and you were freaked out. You just wait. I remember that.
I haven't seen Ross laugh this hard.
I remember when Dan was so upset. It was great. But yeah, so some of the guys that we talked about, Casey, Josh Lowe of the Tampa, we talked about too. We like him.
Lowe, and we talked about McCutchen.
Who else did we mention?
McCutchen, JB Davis.
We did talk about Taylor Walls. He has him on there on his list.
Yep. I'm curious, Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted.
Are there any Oakland A's? Are there any Oakland A's that are worth?
Esteury Ruiz, baby.
Well, they had a big pitcher call up, didn't they? Did you guys notice this?
No.
How about that Rooker guy? The Rooker guy that's hitting over 300. That's an outfielder. I think he hurt himself. But I think his name's Kevin Rooker. I think, but I mean, is he anything?
Rooker? I don't know.
Mason Miller is the pitcher that they just called up, And it was a surprise. He wasn't supposed to be up until at least 2024.
I think they ran out of arms, and I think they're going to call up little leaguers next in Oakland.
It's going to be coach pitch.
I think they'll bring back Dennis Eckersley. They'll bring back some of the older guys. Matt Keogh will come back. Brian Kingman will be pitching. You'll be seeing a lot of the old Oakland A's pitching this season because they're running out of arms and they don't have any money, so they can't afford anybody. So,
okay, Uncle Ted says Dane Dunning is a stud. He's rejoining the Rangers rotation. What do you guys think, Dane Dunning?
Last year, Casey, we talked about him.
Yeah, he burned us last year. So
show me the money with Dane Dunning.
Dunning and Lauer feel similar to me in terms of like their value. You know, Dunning also, he has 0 ERA, but again, the Dan Ratner test, he's not getting the strikeouts so far.
He hasn't enough strikeouts. I mean, we talked about Wade Miley. He's having a great season, Uncle Ted, and so is Dre Jameson we talked about him before, but with the Arizona Diamondbacks, he's pitching really hard.
Here's an interesting point. Uncle Ted says you can't judge pitchers from previous years. I think that's largely true in a lot of ways. It's especially true, you know, if they don't have much of a track record. I mean, if they have a good track record in the minors but haven't shown it in the majors, they can always explode. I also think when players join new teams, Wade Miley is a good example of that. The Milwaukee pitching coaches seem to do a pretty good job there, and that's one of the
Milwaukee never loses. I mean, Milwaukee this season, all they do is win. That's all Milwaukee does is win games.
What.
All right, we've got Uncle Ted says Soraka is about to rejoin the Braves.
Is rolling right now.
He's balling in the minors now. Okay, 27-year-old pitchers are my favorite age. 27 is it's in many ways is the best age for any player in baseball.
Yeah, they kind of talk about that in almost every sport as their prime, except
running
back.
Hold on, guys. I mean, I would say football, it's lower. I think baseball, you're correct at 27. Football, I would say 24, 25 for football.
Yeah.
And basketball, yeah, you can get away with 26, 27, but
and then there's pickleball where, 67 is more your prime.
I mean, Tatum, Luka, and Booker are all under 25. So it's like
Ross didn't even take that in.
No.
Okay, Uncle Ted says
guys under 25. Okay.
Zach Eflin, highest paid Rays free agent ever. Is that true?
I think it is.
Wow. That is quite a nugget of information.
That's weird stuff. Say it like Carson for me, please.
That's weird, wild stuff. How was that for you, Ross? All right.
Good. I love it.
So let's talk closers a little bit before we wrap up.
Okay.
Who are the guys who are kind of fringe guys that you think you can add to get ahead of the curve? We just had, speaking of Oakland, Zach Jackson, I think, got a save last night. If you're really desperate for saves, you could go there. Look at the look on Ross's face.
I mean,
he's like, oh,
I don't know what to tell you. I think we talked about him earlier, and he's off the DL as barred. I don't know what percentage he's owned, but he'll be the closer probably by the weekend. I mean, he already pitched 1 inning.
Barred is 75% rostered.
Okay, so that's weird. It went up.
Okay, Shelby Miller, AJ Minter, AJ Puck. Those are some good ones possible.
Minter has to be over 60%. Puke, I don't think he gets the saves every time, does he? I mean, he's not the guy that Puke. Yeah,
I think so. What everybody does not want to call him. AJ Minter is 84% rostered.
Yeah, AJ Minter. Again, I have him in our league. I drafted him actually.
All right, now we mentioned Alvarado. I think Alex Lang in Detroit is getting some late inning work now. Again, it's not one I trust very much, but the last couple weeks he's been pretty good.
What about Jose Quijada?
Well, he seems to be. I mean, I watched him pitch against the Yankees. The guy, like from that left side, he just throws smoke.
I know his ERA is high, and I'll say it. And he pitches for the White Sox, and right now he's their closer. I don't think he'll keep the job much longer, but is Lopez. He recently had a save, and he comes in during save opportunities. He pitches pretty well. I think he'll keep the job for a while until Liam comes back. But again, if he's available in your league, it's not a bad person to plug in a hole for a couple of weeks.
All right, we're going to wrap up in a minute or two here, but Uncle Ted says, feel like Tampa is just limiting Eflin's innings more than he's injured. We, of course, know that happens a fair amount. I used to be like, wow, they just suddenly got injured all of a sudden, and there's no real explanation. They're just managing innings. Dodgers closer will appear soon. Whoever he is, he's a
You
must
don't think
add.
it's Evan Phillips?
I think it's Evan Phillips.
I don't know. I have no idea. I live in LA. I don't know. I mean, they bring in different pitchers all the time. I don't know. I hope it's Evan Phillips because I have him in our league. I hope it is.
Well, I'm gonna look at the Dodgers roster and just take a quick peek. It's a nice function that you have.
It could be Aroldis Chapman.
Oh, Aroldis Chapman, you think is going to end up the closer there? He's going to end up on the Yankees. But I think it's going to be Phillips. But Uncle Ted did mention Shelby Miller. That's a dark horse candidate for it. Gratterall has been talked about as
Gratterall throws 100 miles an hour, but they're like right down the middle of the plate, and people just
he's got the Rick Vaughn vibe. Except
he has the Chapman from when he played for the Yankees, or the Hunter Green syndrome.
Well, guys, it's been another great waiver wire and fantasy strategy discussion. We're going to let you go, but we will be here the same time next week. It's Thursdays, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. It's been a pleasure being here with you. Casey, Ross, thanks so much.
Always.
See you next week.